After you take the wheel off, remove the cotter pin and nut from the tie rod end. Using a hammer, break loose the tie rod end by tapping the steering knuckle. Next, remove the sway bar linkage. Now remove the 2 remaining brackets and the sway bar will come right out. Now place the jack under the lower control arm. Raise the jack to remove tension from the shock assembly. Remove the shock by unbolting the top and the bottom. You need to place a safety chain between the control arm and the spring. This will keep the spring from coming out and causing harm. Now remove the cotter pins and loosen the nuts on the ball joints about halfway. Do not take the nuts all the way off. Next, take your hammer and tap the brake assembly where the ball joints go through. This will free them up. Before removing the bottom nut, make sure the jack is raised up to relieve tension on it. Next, remove the brake line and cap it off. Now pull off the brake and steering knuckle assembly. Take off the safety chain and pull out the spring. Next, remove the nuts from the upper control arm. The upper control arm bolts are splined from factory. These bolts need to be driven out and not turned out. We have a tool that makes removing these spline bolts easy. A couple quick pulls of the slide hammer and they come right out. Next, remove the old upper and lower control arms. Now install the new lower strong arm. Now put the Shockwave in to see what needs to be trimmed out of the frame. Next, mark on the frame where there will be at least a ½ inch of space between the Shockwave and frame at any position. Next, trim out the marked off area and refit the Shockwave to make sure everything is in the clear. If necessary, remark a line, remove the Shockwave and cut again. After everything has been trimmed up and the Shockwave is fitting properly, clean up the cut and paint to prevent any rust. Next, tape off the end of the airline and run it through the spring pocket. This prevents any grime or dirt from getting inside. Use a protective sleeve or grommet when going through holes in the metal. Our kits come with quick connects. Just push the airline into the fitting until it stops. To remove the airline, pull the collar up and the airline out. Now bolt the Shockwave back in. Tighten both nuts on the upper Shockwave mount. Pull up the lower control arm and bolt the bottom of the Shockwave to it. Check again to ensure that the bag isn't going to rub at any position. A finger check is a good judge. Place the new upper control arm where the old upper control arm was. Bolt it in. On this installation, we opted for a disc brake. You do not have to change over to disc brakes to improve your ride quality. The kit works with either. Put the tie rod end back into the steering knuckle and tighten the nut down. Replace the cotter pin. Refer to your factory service manual for torque specs. Next, bolt the sway bar back in place, installing the center brackets first. We also opted to put our muscle bars on instead of the factory sway bar. Now put the linkage in and tighten it up. Next, reattach the brake line. Bleed your brakes and grease the ball joints. Finally, reinstall the wheel. Repeat this process on the other side and you are done with the Shockwave installation on the front end.